Good morning. Good morning. Hope you guys had a good weekend. What a gorgeous weekend we had, too. Temperatures close to 60, really, both days. Decent amount of sun, even the day that was featuring overcast sky yesterday. It wasn't too bad, right? We had just mainly a high deck of clouds. In the shade, it was a bit cool, but if you stayed in the sun rays, you're actually doing quite well. Hope you guys are doing well. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Happy Monday as well, as we're moving into the new week here, first full week of the month of February. And this is where the next 3 to 4 weeks, this is it. When it comes to your wintry type of setup in the Ohio Valley, if you don't get it, usually in that window, you're not going to get it, and it's over, and then we move on. And even snow lovers, we move on, and we get right into the setup for spring and just come back around to it again in 2024, 25. Which should be here before you know it, right? But still, for snow lovers, we've got some time because the next 3 to 4 weeks do look to be active for us. And colder weather is getting back into the mix again as we do see that change take place. Of course, your question right now, and you've already been asking it, I've been paying attention, is will we get snow out of that? Now, that's a little more complex, as you might imagine, but getting the colder air is step one because that's not always the case around here. For the latter half of the winter season. Although I'd say usually, but in the past decade, it usually is the time period we get some of the colder events. And something about Valentine's Day, I don't know what it is. It's likely just a placement in time and how things work out in the season. But usually around here, Valentine's Day is more of a wintry setup and tends to be active for us. So this year, I don't see it being anything extreme yet. But I do think we will have something wintry very close to National Sweethearts Day or Singles Awareness Day, whatever way you want to look at it. All right, we'll get back to that in just a second. Well, in fact, looking at the snowboard, I do not have anything on the board today. I was hoping to, but there's a couple pieces of data that are actually missing today. I'm not sure what happened over the weekend, but because I do not have those, that's kind of the backbone to a lot of my decision making that I look at on filling in the gaps in the longer term. So I need that data, and it will get sent through tonight. So maybe by tomorrow, I'll be able to add one or more items onto the list. But today, I'm not there. So it's still a very quiet set until we get to next week, between they get to the warmer pattern and the flip, if you will, too colder than normal. All right. Beautiful view right now of the Ohio. Notice it's a little more blue again. Notice it's not moving as rapidly on the image there on the camera feed. It has gone down in levels and it's not as muddy. So that's a good sign. The river has kind of gotten back under control once again after trying to get out of its banks with the heavy rain setup that we had in mid-January. But we're doing great. I mean, this is actually a really nice setup here for the next few days. Beautiful blue sky overhead. We're going to hold on to that for at least the first part of the week. A little more of a high clouds cirrus type of deal flowing in throughout the daytime periods starting on Wednesday and for the rest of the week. So the next couple of days will be the prettiest days as far as out the window and sky condition that we'll have. 37 now. It's cold out, right? We'll get cold again tomorrow morning. Really, the next couple of mornings will be cold. Eventually, we'll warm up these overnight lows to where by the time we hit into Friday night, really Friday morning and Friday nights, I think the temperatures will be struggling to even drop much below 50 for overnight lows. So we do have some milder weather at night coming in the mornings, but the next couple of mornings will indeed be chilly. But while fair weather lovers love this, for snow lovers, like, this is boring. Move on, get to something else. So we will talk about the change that's going to kick in later this week. There's that low pressure, by the way, that was moving into our south or southern scooter. It's still on the maps way down there. You can barely even see it as the sun comes up. Notice, though, off the lakes, the fog coming in off the lakes is pretty wild, right? We may see some river valley fog in the area for tomorrow morning and maybe again Wednesday morning. It doesn't look to be too much of a problem, just something we'll be fine-tuning. Otherwise, this is what everyone's been talking about in the national news, certainly, and it has been all weekend, and that is the idea of the atmospheric river, which is just a ribbon of moisture that surges from the Eastern Pacific right into the higher latitudes. And sure enough, that's still stretching through the Rockies and the West Coast. There's another one behind this, a little more in the Central Pacific, but I don't think that's going to be a huge player right now in this particular feed. But man, just close to, last time I checked, there was about 700,000 people without power in California. But San Francisco has been hit with heavy rain as well, mountain snow. But LA is taking on the brunt this morning. Look at that flow. I mean, you got to keep in mind, for an area that just doesn't see very much in heavy rain scenario, even El Nino year doesn't always seem to stand out. This is a pretty significant event, and it doesn't look like it, but it's very, very windy too in this area. So you've got a lot of high wind. You've got chilly temperatures for them, pouring rain out there, nonstop feed of rainfall. It's like having just a feed of showers coming off the Ohio River for downtown Louisville. That won't stop. It just keeps going and going and going. You see the problems. And the biggest issue they've got in California that we do not have as much of here in our area is terrain. You get into a terrain setup like this, you're talking about a very typical dry, in some cases, a desert ground. Water does not sink into the ground, does not soak up like our clay environment that we have, especially in Kentucky. So the water runs off of it, and it runs off the mountainsides rapidly and becomes a force of nature that causes a lot of destruction, puts everyone's life at risk. It's just a big, dangerous mess and setup. I was surprised actually to see that they even got the Grammys out of the way last night without any major issues, because that was impacting a lot of that area where everyone was gathering. So I was wondering how that was going to play out. But still very active today. Water rescues have been ongoing for a while. And this atmospheric river is eventually going to work its way toward us. But the ribbon, if you will, of that moisture feed will become a little more stretched out and weaker because it's getting away from the Pacific. And we'll end up just seeing some rain out of that entire flow, but nothing to this level, not even close. So here's how we're going to get to that. This afternoon into the 50s, beautiful, chilly tonight. We'll keep an eye on the either river valley fog areas or a low stratus stack that could develop late tonight tomorrow. So we may have a little bit of a delay and a pretty sunrise tomorrow, but we'll make up some ground quickly and we'll end up with another pretty day. Tomorrow, by the way, will be cooler than what we've got today, only by a few degrees, but you should notice a slight drop. We get into Wednesday, we throw in the high clouds as that eastern part of that atmospheric river begins to get closer to us. We'll end up with more of a prettier sunrise and sunset scenario. That's good. You add in high level clouds coming in from the west. Usually that's a great recipe for that. So we'll see that as temperatures get warmer as the week wears on. We're talking 60 or higher. The max of this looks like it's going to be on Friday the way it stands now, depending on how the rain breaks on Friday. So looking at just the Euro idea, and I'll explain how this is going to evolve in the flip. We get into Thursday. I think Thursday overall daytime looks dry. Thursday night into Friday, that's when the first round of showers will begin to pop. And they will just pop right along the Mississippi Valley and the western side of wave country. So not all areas will see this first round of showers as we into Thursday night and very early Friday. There will be some thunder potential with this, but because of the timing of this and how this is stalling as it moves in, instead of being aggressively pushing into the area, which it looked like it would last week, that is cutting down on any severe potential out of this. So that's good, but it will allow us to enjoy at least mild weather, even if it's going to be mainly cloudy and at times there will be some rain around. The Friday morning commute, we'll watch that for the potential for some heavier rain that may pop on the radar Friday morning. And then you see 60s even on Friday still. And then this whole thing slides to the east, but the main front is still here in St. Louis. So it looks like the first front comes through, but it's actually just the precursor rain event, prefrontal rain that is going to be jutting out ahead of that. That's the reason why we have a chance to get into the mid 60s or low 60s at the very least as we get into Friday afternoon after even having rain Friday morning. If the sun can break through and we get dry time, we could jump back up again. So it's because that's not the true front yet. The true front will arrive Saturday. As it moves in, that's when we say goodbye to, certainly goodbye to the 60-degree temps and likely goodbye to the 50s. That means from there on out, it is all about colder weather. And our normal high is 46 and increasing as we head through the month of February. So when you see a lot of the temperature maps that are showing below normal or much below normal, you got to keep in mind it's going on that idea of the 46, which is roughly a good 10 degrees up from where we were in the January Arctic attack. So that's the reason why we're not looking at an Arctic blast as far as getting below zero or anything like that. But I think we're going to get colder than normal. And for snow, that is all you need to be. And this scenario is just get back to the point where you can get into some wintry weather. And that's still the pattern that seems to unfold down the road. Now, I will say that as you look at the pattern here for the weekend, Friday and Saturday feature the rain chance. Sunday, you'll be able to see here that as I hit the next keyframe, you'll be able to see the colder air kind of just wraps around us, kind of sinks in on either side. Doesn't really take over aggressively there, so it's not a cold blast yet. The challenge I think we've got as we head into next week is certainly all about wintry type setups, but there's two different storm tracks that are starting to show up for next week. One will be a low pressure that's going to move out of Texas and head northeast. Will it move right along the temperature boundary where you've got the warmer weather and the colder weather to the north? Will it get pushed a little more to the deep south or somewhere in between? That looks to be the challenge number one, and that'll be a Monday, Tuesday event. Which angle will this low move out? That will determine how that plays out for rain versus snow. My gut feeling right now, just given this is the first low to roll out like this, it will likely trend back north. I do think a majority of it will be rain and likely a rain to snow type scenario. Usually the first one like this in a pattern change or flip is likely to be a rain to snow setup. So that is likely the case. I know there's some models take it way down south, but I think a little more north is the way to go with that for now. That's just my gut feeling. I may change my mind in 12 hours. After that moves by, the second storm track you're about to see will be a clipper type track, a northwest to southeast. We don't know yet how much of a dive that will have in the area, but that will be something to watch for the middle portion of next week, which will put it very close to Valentine's Day. So here's the Euro. Again, this is just one model's idea, but it takes it, scoots to the south, doesn't have much on the snow side on the northern because it's too far south, I think. I think it'll trend north. It will get a snow look to it on the northern side. I think the Euro is a little off here on this. I think it will have a snow path to it. It's not going to be very wide. I do think it will have a snow path with it with rain to the south. Right now, that snow path looks much more promising for Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Not so much into southern Indiana or Kentucky yet. After it moves by, the clipper type system will then dive in behind it. You see that drop that'll happen. And this is where we start to then see how the cold air begins to drop in. And you got to keep in mind the cold air attacks are coming from basically due north in this kind of a cold pattern flip, not west or northwest dropping in. So a little different than what we had for January. And again, as I mentioned, I don't see anything as brutal. It's tough to get to that level of what it was in January into February into March, late February and March, even that. It's very difficult. You're likely going to get just a lot of 20s and 30s. But again, that's good because at least you just get cold enough to get wintry weather back in the headlines again. But it's not brutally cold where we're talking about wind chill advisories and wind chill warnings and nobody can go outside and enjoy it. That's not fun. So I think this is good. This is a plus for those that don't want to deal with the very dangerously cold weather, but yet would like to have some snowfall events to still enjoy. So I think it's a fair compromise, at least in my eyes. So that's how next week looks to evolve. And then we'll just have to see how it goes for the end portion of February into early March. I think it has some staying power. I don't know how long that staying power. Let's hope it doesn't overwhelm its stay and it gets past spring, the first part of spring there, because then that's when everyone gets really upset. And even I am, it's not fun, especially when you have to deal with any outdoor planting. I have my pond I got to take care of. When you get these cold attacks into April, it becomes much more of a challenge to get everything going for the spring and summer season. So I'm hoping we get everything here at the end of February, early March. Let's get some wintry weather out of the way, satisfy all the snow lovers at least one more time, and then just move right on to spring without getting severe weather. Let's move right into spring and have a normal spring for once. That would be nice, but that's almost like a fairy tale. You can see that the Euro ensembles, don't pay any attention to the numbers or anything, just notice the noise that is there for snowfall. Not a lot of blues or pinks there, mainly grays and a few blues. But you can see it starts roughly mid-February into the latter portion of the month. So as long as we have the noise, that's a good sign that it will be a colder, wintry type of pattern. I did look at let me show this full screen. Hold on. This is, again, looking at the polar winds, and you're noticing that we're getting a warm surge that happens around the 15th through the 20th. You get the wind that is relaxing to allow that to happen. Same time period. There's usually about a week delay maybe a little bit longer in this, causing a cold pattern for the eastern United States, but it's still there. In fact, if anything, it's a little stronger with the signal than what I saw on Friday. This is what it will look like. Again, a stretched polar vortex effect. You can see it stretches only into the eastern United States, and it's roughly the Mississippi River and east. Could even be I-65 in east. That's a very sharp angle, very challenging, because you don't want it to dig too far to the south, because if you do, you will be cold, but you'll also be dry. Cuts away in a lot of the weather systems that can move in. So you want it to put its toes in the water, but not all the way to where it causes some headaches. Travis, some of the models have it past spring. Hopefully not. The cold air patterns like this do linger longer than the model show. So it wouldn't surprise me that it does linger, but that's my fear. We want it to happen, but it moves in. It may take forever to get out of here. So, Jeremy, California's weather will not be, again, we'll be at a piece of that as we head into Friday and parts of Saturday, but nothing to that level, to be clear, nothing at all to that level. It's a much different scenario. And again, terrain is their biggest challenge they've got with heavy rain. We get heavy rain events like that, but we don't get them with, huge mountain chains, up against us. That is the problem. Angle attack from the southwest is really tough for them. So there you go. That's the idea, guys. So overall, I think we're on target still for the latter half of February into March to get into a colder setup. Again, nothing extreme showing up right now on the brutal cold side, but I do think it's enough to get us back into some wintry talk and some snowfall potential back into the area. Between now and then, we've got a full week before that happens. So we've got beautiful weather the next few days. We've got some rain coming our way as we into Friday and Saturday with mild weather. But then next week, especially after Monday and Tuesday next week, well, things begin to change.